Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Gina Cavaliero on the show with us. She's a bodybuilder, a certified personal trainer, and she's an NPC bodybuilding physique competitor. She's nationally qualified, and she's also sponsored by Mariposa Designs. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Gina, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. It's awesome to be on. I'm so thrilled to be asked to be a guest and get to share my story. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. But why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what got you inspired to make that sort of change and make that better, that more healthy adaptation to your lifestyle?
Sure. It was kind of force of habit. I mean, it was necessary. I was in really bad health. I was overweight. I had a farm at the time. I had an organic farm, and I'd also started a nonprofit for the industry I was in. So between the running the farm and running the nonprofit, I hardly ever slept. It was like 3 hours a night. I ate horrible. I mean, breakfast was typically Dunkin' Donuts, 2-3 donuts, a huge iced coffee with cream and sugar and, hazelnut flavor. So just loaded with sugar and fat. I was out of shape. It was bad. I also was a horse farrier. I trimmed horse feed on the side as well. And one day I was kind of wrestling a little bit with the horses, giving me a little bit of trouble. And I couldn't breathe. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really winded. I'm like, there's something wrong. And I started noticing stuff like that more and more often. And I went to dinner with a friend of mine, and he just point blank pointed up my stomach, and he said, you need to lose weight. That's your problem. You need to take 30, 40 pounds off. That's why you can't breathe. That's why your blood pressure is high, which it was.
Wow, he was right down to the point.
He was. He didn't pull any punches. And I was a little offended. I was like, he's like, hey, it is what it is. And you have the choice to make that change and take control of that. And I did. I quit the nonprofit that I had started. I started sleeping. I immediately started eating better. And literally the day after I quit the nonprofit, I joined the gym. And that's where it all began.
That's awesome. So now I always love to sort of make the statement that, like, if you were to walk into a gym with like 100 people in it, there's going to be 100 different ways as to how people got into the shape that they're in, whether it comes down to their nutrition, their diet, I mean, how many reps they do, what exercise they do. There's so many little things that add up to the package that people end up seeing. Was that hard for you at first to sort of find out what worked best for you personally? Because like I said, if you were to go up and talk to someone, what worked best for them might not work as good for you.
Absolutely. I kind of had a whole history or a lifetime of being in and out of the gym. You've heard yo-yo dieters. I was the yo-yo gym goer. I would go for a while. I'd be real consistent. I'd look good, and then I'd quit, and I'd gain weight again, and the diet would fluctuate with that too. So learning, that consistency was key was a big step for me. I really had to learn that if I was going to start this lifestyle, I needed to maintain it. And the other thing was there's so many components when it comes to fitness and losing weight. It's not just the diet. That's a good 80% of it easily. But there's the cardio component. There's the resistance training. There's core. There's flexibility. There's, even mind and body and spirit and how it all connects together. Is all of that goes together into losing weight and getting fit and conditioned. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was, watching people in the gym, getting little bits and pieces of information, and even those bits and pieces that sometimes were wrong. So I finally hired a trainer. I needed somebody, a professional, to direct me and to begin learning the right way to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend, especially for people starting out, that you go and get that done. But one of the big myths and stereotypes that we love to bust on this show is that, I mean, it's gotten better with Instagram, like over the last 5 or so years, but there's still a lot of women that believe if they touch one weight, they're just going to hulk out and put on 50 pounds of muscle and just get super big overnight. And I always say to that, sign me up if that's possible. I mean, I'd be one of the first people down there. But did you ever have that fear when you were starting? And even if you didn't, what is your main response to it? Because I bet you probably hear that all the time. What is your main response to that?
Yeah, I do hear it frequently, and for me it wasn't a concern or a fear because I've always been enamored with muscle. I grow it easily. It's just easy, ridiculously easy for me to grow muscle. So it was never a concern for me, but I hear it frequently from folks that I work with clients, or even those that I'm just meeting for the first time and perhaps doing a fitness evaluation. And, I see the look on their face and I don't want to look like you, and I don't want to be cocky about it, but the reality is
you're not,
don't worry, you're not gonna. What you see here is taken years of discipline, dedication, and eating the right foods and working out hours.
And genetics also that most people don't realize too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But, for most women, picking up weights will make the difference between putting on a conservative amount of lean mass and giving them more muscle mass, which will help them to metabolize more fat mass and give them strength. Also, give them more shape to their body. So it's an integral part of the puzzle. Without resistance training, we can lose weight just doing the cardio, but it's not the optimal way to do it, and it's not the healthy way either. So, I just tell folks, women in particular, don't worry that you're not going to get big and bulky unless by some freakish chance you have genetics similar to mine.
Well, I was going to say, everyone just take a look at her, and she's a bodybuilder. And does she look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or anything like that? No. I mean, it's like, it's one of those ridiculous things. I always love to tell the story of when I was in college. One of my good friends, that's when I really started to get bigger and started to work out a lot more. And she would always say, like, I really want to go with you, but I don't want to get huge. I don't want to get big and bulky. And then finally one night I just told her, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse weighs a lot more than most of the dumbbells in the gym. And you're not gaining muscle from lugging that thing around all the time. And then that finally convinced her. And it's just one of those things where you got to go in there. And then once you get started, I mean, you just realize that it's one of the best things you can do, especially metabolism-wise, when it comes to speeding up your metabolism and making it so that you can lose weight. It's absolutely one of the best things that you can do. So at what point in your journey did you realize, like, hey, I could be a bodybuilder, I could do this? How long did it take before you finally started to, like, seriously consider that?
Really, it was something I've wanted to do my entire life. I mean, there's even pictures of me as a kid flexing, I mean, I watched Arnold, when I was 5 years old. But I ran into a trainer. It was kind of a fortuitous meeting. She was on a squat rack, and I needed to do some squats. I'm like, hey, can I work in with you? And started talking, and she was, hey, you've got a great shape. You would do well as a bodybuilder. And I was like, oh, really? So I kind of went home that evening. I was like, hey, I met this trainer, and this is what they said. And I don't know if that was part of a pitch to get a new client, which if it was, it worked really well on her. But that was it. That was kind of what made me stop and say, hey, you know what? This is something I've wanted to do my entire life. I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm. What was harder for you personally when you started to make that change? Was it the nutrition, or was it just the constant working out?
Definitely the nutrition, and I really kind of went into it very blindly, not knowing anything about it and wanting to be spoon-fed that information. I just wanted somebody to do all the hard work. I didn't mind the heavy lifting, and tell me what to eat, but I didn't want to know the ins and outs of how to do it. Until a couple years in, I changed my mind on that, where I thought I could be a better athlete and then eventually a better coach by learning every bit when it comes to that nutrition. But I think it's different for everybody, whether or not what level of understanding and comprehension they want to have when it comes to fitness and nutrition. I mean, some people just, want to have that person there to be their mentor and guide. And I think that works really well for some folks. And then for other people, it works better to be more self-guided on their journey, because that's what it really comes down to, is like fitness is just this incredible journey that we need to adapt and incorporate into our lives. It's like preventative maintenance for our bodies, right? We can pay for it now, put in the time now, and I'd much rather do that than pay for it later because I didn't do it.
Yep. I mean, I absolutely couldn't agree more. I mean, some people just naturally have that ability where they can just do it all by themselves, but I mean, others do need the help. But I mean, I totally couldn't agree with you more on that. But we love to hear first prep stories on here, because most people don't realize is that when you're starting to like get healthy and fit, that's hard enough in and of itself with the diet and the nutrition. But when you go on prep, that's just notching it up to a whole different level. What was that experience like for you the first time?
The first time it was tough because you don't know what to expect. I admit I had multiple freakouts, like the poor guy that was coaching.
Hang on, look at your dog just came right behind. Oh, he's so cute.
Thank you. Yep. He's the one that sometimes has an opinion, so
okay. No problem.
But yeah, I mean, you don't know what to expect, and especially the closer you get to stage time, your body begins to change really rapidly. So you may not necessarily see what you want to see yet. So trusting that process, that's definitely the hard part there.
Yeah.
Sticking to the diet for me wasn't too bad. I'm kind of very a black and white person. Once I'm all in, I'm pretty good. But that means there's no wavering. You can't even have the slightest little cheat or even a bite, because I'm afraid that once you let that guard down, then it might be hard to close the door again.
Well, absolutely. Most people don't realize that the mental game is just as bad, if not even harder to do than the actual lifting of the weights and the nutrition. I mean, just tricking your mind into saying like, hey, I can do this when your body is just telling you constantly like, oh, we got to stop. Like, this isn't something we should do. But I mean, and that's why I just have such a huge respect for people like you that do the bodybuilding and everything else, because it really is just a huge mind over matter thing. And you guys really just, I mean, what you guys go through is incredible. But I got to ask, being a very pale person myself, what was that like the first time putting the tanner on for the first time? Because we hear so many stories of like, I saw muscles I didn't even know that I ever had. Everything really seemed to pop out. What was that experience like for you the first time?
Yeah, the tan it definitely makes a difference. I mean, especially on stage, the lighting is so bright, it just washes you out. So there's prep that goes into the tan that we don't even kind of think about, and even things that you have to do post tan, like bringing linens and sheets to your hotel room so you don't get tan everywhere. But if somebody that's really fair complected like you, it's hard to get you guys dark enough. So it's good if we can get a decent base tan. I'm Latin, I'm Italian, so for me to get a base tan is not too big a deal. I did go into one show season though without a good base tan, and the girl spraying was Latin, and she looked at me and she was kind of like, "What's wrong with you? You should be darker," And I was really white that year, but so it's definitely a different experience in how to manage your tan and not mess it up, especially if you have to maintain it for a day or two through the show.
Absolutely. I mean, I blame my Scandinavianage for just this pale white skin that just can't do it. I mean, I can't even the sun without a lot of sunscreen. It's BS. It doesn't agree with me. People don't realize that, I mean, just it takes so much courage, especially the first time, to go up on that stage in front of all those people and basically like what is a two-piece basically. And I mean, it takes a lot. I mean, like I always say, if you were to poll the general population, a small percentage of people would have the courage to go out and do that. They would say, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Was that ever a struggle for you at first to kind of just work up that courage to do it? Or was it one of those things where you're like, I've worked my butt off, I'm just going to show it off, doesn't matter?
A little bit of both. I mean, you kind of hit on both sides of it, really. But, you look great, so the fear of being out there in a two-piece and exposed, if you will, isn't so bad because you look great. You put in the time and you're confident in how you look. On the other side, though, it's a little intimidating to get out in front of a bunch of people you don't know and in very little clothing. But I love it too. One of my first shows, I got off stage and I knew one of the ladies that's an expediter, one of the people that help get people ready backstage. And she said, when you're doing a back double by, which you're facing the back of the stage, not the crowd, and you're grinning ear to ear, she goes, that's when you like it, you know? So I definitely like being on stage. That's the fun part.
And you kind of touched deep a little bit on it, but most people don't realize when it comes to just some of the really hard things about, especially bodybuilding, getting ready for the shows, is the posing. Most people don't realize that the posing for a lot of competitors is the hardest thing. It's harder than anything else because it's one of those things that you can never truly master. I mean, it's always got to be ever evolving. I mean, it's kind of just like driving a car, doing anything else. You can never be like perfect at it. You can be really, really good at it, but it's something that you always need to be working on. Has that ever been a struggle for you when you were starting out, or was it one of those things that you picked up pretty good?
It's come to me pretty easily, but I have, sought out coaching when it comes to posing because, just being able to really assess how well you're displaying your muscle is hard. Just being able to see do I need to move my leg a half inch to the right and turn it out just a little bit? And could make all the difference in the world and showing the muscle better, perhaps hiding some part of skin that's not quite tight enough, So yeah, it's difficult. It's exhausting. I mean, just even practicing it, that's probably one of the places I lack discipline is I don't feel that I practice my posing as much as I should. Leading up to my shows. So, and it's always enough when I get on stage because I can hold my poses, but you don't want to be the athlete on stage that's shaking like a feather because you're not conditioned enough to hold those poses as long as you need to.
Yeah, I mean, that's one
thing. Hard.
I mean, some people don't realize just how hard it is because you have to be flexing like everything at the right time. Like even every bit, just your basic pose. I mean, you're flexing literally everything in your body. I mean, it's just one of those things that, like I said, takes years. I mean, probably takes years just to even get down really a good form of it. But what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
Favorite pose definitely has to be a front double by, and least favorite's probably quads and abs.
Yep. We've always heard that to be, I mean, just because it's one of those things where it's so hard to get the right, and then you got to show off your quads too. It's absolutely that's a ridiculous pose for me because I was like, these athletes go through enough. You don't got to make them do something like that. I mean, that's hard enough as it is to master. But I always got to ask, I ask this to all my guests, whether they be up and coming bands or health and fitness people or any other thing. What is that like for you performing live or being live? I always ask my bands, like, what is it like performing live on stage? That also applies to the competitors that I have on. What is that feeling like for you when you get to step on stage and show all of that hard work off that you've worked months upon months? You've basically just went through a living hell kind of in your prep to get ready for the show. But when you're finally able to walk out on stage and show it off, what is that feeling like for you?
It's kind of cataclysmic, I mean, it's the epitome of what we do. We train months on end, years on end for literally one day, and it might only be 90 seconds, literally. You're going to get on stage and you're off. I kind of liken it to an Olympic athlete in the sense that they're training 4 years for that one event, that one race, or that one game. So we don't go 4 years, obviously, but even if we only do one show in a year, which a lot of athletes may only do one, for me, that's it. That's the culmination, the pinnacle of what we train for. Yeah. There's that talk I have with myself right before I go on stage. This is it. This is what you've trained for. And the minute I get on stage, I feel like I shine, I glow, yeah. I turn. It's my happy place.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I always recommend, whether it be like for baseball with me when I was on the mound, that was kind of a place where I just felt like at peace. Everyone's got to find that thing in their life because, it's such a great feeling. And I highly recommend, if you haven't found that yet in your life, just try new things. You never know what you might like. And just if you find that thing, hold on to it really, really tight. But now, what is your go-to post-show meal?
My go-to post-show, it's always sweets. I am a cookie fiend. So there's always a chocolate chip cookie that happens after show, and it's either a comfort cookie or a celebration cookie. Fortunately, this year we had celebration cookies at every show.
That's awesome. So now one of the topics that I really love to bring up, because it's not discussed too much on Instagram or in other mainly circles, is when it comes to your competitions, people don't realize that you sort of, with all the dieting and all of the nutrition, you sort of made your body into a look that isn't sustainable. Like, you're not going to be able to look that way 365 days out of the year. So many people that I have on, or so many of my friends were like talking about all the people that I have on, they're like, they must just look like that 365 days out of the year. It's like, no, you're going to put on weight after a show because your body, it's just, you've got to a point where, it can't function really like that, especially for women. Guys, it's a little bit easier, but women especially, year round, you cannot you can't look like that. So has it been a struggle for you, or what are some ways that you've sort of adapted to the fact that like you had a post earlier today about how you hadn't trained at all since you last competed, and you probably have put on like a pound or two at least, because a lot of people do. Has that, when you started doing that, was that ever like a mental game for you where you just had to say like, hey, I am not going to look this good forever, this lean forever. I am going to unfortunately put weight back on, but it's okay. Was that ever a struggle for you?
Absolutely, and it even is to this day. There's a lot of what we call body dysmorphia that occurs with bodybuilding, because you get to the absolute best physique that you're ever going to be, right? So going from that to, oh my gosh, I've put on weight, and it's fat that we're putting back on our body. It's very hard sometimes to be able to look at yourself in that body image and be okay with it. So it can be challenging in that respect. So you do have to have those conversations with yourself and say, yeah, it's not healthy to stay there. I can't stay there. In order to grow and to continue to have success in my sport, I'm going to have to put that weight back on, because that's how we grow in our off season. So yeah, it's absolutely been a challenge. I logically know that I am not fat, but I have those records in my head where I used to be overweight, that I was, most of my life, I was overweight. Growing up as a kid, by the age of 10, I had cellulite. Wow. It was something I've dealt with my entire life, my entire adult life, and literally until I was 45. So those records are absolutely there. So I've really had to embrace loving every bit of ourselves, no matter what we look like. Right? Yeah. So I tell it to my clients and people that I work with, because I hear, I hate my butt, I hate my thighs, and it's like, you know what? We can't change and prove a part of ourselves that we hate. Yeah. So love every bit of it, make it positive, and we can enact a change. So even our off-season body, it may not be our ultimate look for us, but we have to love it no matter what.
And when you were getting started in the gym, was there a body part that really responded really well that you don't have to train as much? And then is there a body part that you really just need to work out a lot just to get it to catch up to everything else?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's probably the case for everybody. Upper body for me, I joke I can pick up a glass of water 10 times, my biceps will grow. So
Lucky.
Yeah. I mean, arms grow ridiculously easy. Back has always responded well. Chest. Lower body has been my challenge. Legs, glutes, hamstrings has been something that I've always had to work diligently at, to train multiple times a week, and even to the point where I don't train my upper body as much, so I can maintain my symmetry. So,
and when you work out, do you ever lift heavy? Because a lot of people don't realize, they think that these bodybuilders are like just lifting heavy, going like 1 rep maxes all the time, but it's an aesthetic look, and you're more likely to get injured if you lift heavy. And a lot of these bodybuilders are doing, still a decent amount of weight that they're pushing around, but they're doing it more for reps. They're doing it more for just the look. Do you tend to train heavy more, or you just you do it more for the aesthetic?
I mix it up, so it definitely depends where I'm at in my season, my growth or off season. I'm lifting heavier, never for 1 rep max, lower rep ranges, maybe 8 to 10, 8 to 12. Occasionally I might be hitting the 6 rep range, but I do more volume training, definitely. And also because of my age too. So that's something I have to take into consideration. I could lift heavier more frequently, but I need to be cognizant of my joints, and make sure I don't risk injury. So I use a lot of time under tension theory, slow reps, slow negatives, so I can just fatigue the muscle, get the same results as lifting heavy without the risk to my joints and having to actually lift as heavy and get the same results.
And I gotta say, if there isn't more of a reason to maybe take a more healthy and fit lifestyle, I mean, look at her, and she's how old, and it's ridiculous. I mean, if I could have arms like that, and I'm 24 years old, it's like, you got to be kidding me. So it's just another reason why everyone, just getting adapting that more healthy and fit lifestyle. But now, one of the things that I find really interesting is that when I started to work out, get bigger and stronger, the one negative thing for me was that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean, I'm still at home with my parents for the next few months before I move out. And every time they come home with groceries, I basically have to lift the car into the driveway. They do all that stuff. So have you found that just because of the way that you look, that people just assume that you can like do favors for them when it comes to like, hey, can you help me move stuff? Has that been a similar experience for you?
A little bit, but I think you get the worst part of it because you're a guy.
Yes. Well, and I'm 6'3" also, so that doesn't help. So yeah, if I didn't even have any muscle at all, just on the height alone, they'd be like, oh yeah, this guy can do it. So yeah, it got to a point where I was like, okay, they recognize that I work out and that I work hard, so I take it as a compliment now. But at first I was like, because like every weekend during the summer, it was like, I'm moving out, can you help me with like my chair? I need to like have a couch or chair lifted. And I was like, come on. So I mean, I always told them, I said, I'll do it, but as long as I'm working out before I do it, because I'm not going to do it before, because then I might get too tired to work out if I'm helping you lift like your entire house out. So yeah. And then another thing, I mean, probably my favorite question to ask is, like, again, I say this every time, it's a multi-million-dollar idea if anyone's out there, but when it comes to clothes for fit women, your clothing options can be limited, because like I always like to say, if you have big shoulders, dresses aren't your best friend. Another thing with jeans too, just because of usually the big lower body that you need to have, and then the tight waist, so jeans can really be a problem. What are some ways that you sort of compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be limited?
I wear workout clothes most of the time. I live in leggings and tank tops for the most part, but you just have to get a little creative. Jeans are definitely an issue. By the time they fit my legs and fit my glutes, they're enormous on my waist. So I have not a whole lot of those. Dresses, you can find ones that work well, especially if they're like just strapless. Then you can kind of show off your upper body at the same time. So
I would go sleeveless. If I was you, I would go sleeveless every day, no matter what the temperature. I mean, even if I was up here in Minnesota and it was -20, I'd be out there in a sleeveless. I'd have a jacket on, but it would be like sleeveless, like cut off right here, and I'd be like doing the snow throw. Yeah, absolutely. Well, my dad, it's actually a funny story. So my dad, he hurt his leg. He slipped on. He's an insurance adjuster, so he'll go and like visit people's houses and estimate like how much damage is. He slipped and he messed up his knee, but that also caused him to lose feeling in one of his knees. So literally during the summer, or I mean during the winter, when up in Minnesota here, it can get to like -20 sometimes. He'll wear shorts outside. He'll be snow throwing. He'll have like a jacket on, but he'll have shorts on, and he doesn't have any feeling in his legs. So I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, he's kind of we always that's how the neighborhood knows him, as the guy who wears shorts when he goes outside to like shovel or whatnot. He doesn't do as much now because he's getting older. But yeah, I mean, it's really with the clothing options. Like I always say, everyone, if you're out there and you want to design something, I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar idea. There's so many people that are willing to go and buy it. So get on it.
They are.
Yeah. And now here's the point where you absolutely embarrass us. Could you give us your best lifts because I mean, just I always feel I want to make everyone just feel bad about themselves right now for like the next 15 seconds.
My best lifts are like my bench, my 1 rep max is 225.
Jeez.
I've never tried to go above that, but I can get one out. I mean, if I'm repping that, like 8 to 10 reps, 185 is a pretty good weight for me for my bench. A little bit stronger on my incline bench, which is a little odd. I can do a little bit more on my incline.
Oh wow.
Squat, 265 is usually about my heavy on my squat, which I haven't seen these weights in a long time because I just came off a prep, so of course I wasn't hitting anything heavy for a while, and I'm right about 285 on my deadlift. So I have a friend that's a powerlifting coach that has just been crazy after me to compete powerlifting. I think I would take the Florida State title for my age group for all 3 of those lifts.
Absolutely. That's just
so he's like, you got to do it. You got to do it. So maybe one of these days I'll
after we're done recording this, I got to definitely hit the gym again because she's outlifting me in almost everything. I mean, bench I did like 230 once, so I got her on that by 5 pounds. But I mean, come on, I still need to do a little bit more. Damn it! So after this, I got to definitely go. I mean, that's just inspiring me right now to get in there. But I mean, that's amazing too that you're able to do that. I mean, it's just another testament to some of the healthy things that you can do with bodybuilding. But now we go to our audience favorite, my personal favorite part of the podcast, where I'm going to ask Gina here about a dozen or so questions and see how she stacks up to all of our other health and fitness guests. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Body's Drowning Pool.
Ooh. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm more of a person where I gotta have like an Iron Maiden or like a Metallica, where I'm kind of old school. But I'm lucky where I have a gym at home where I go work out like at 75% of the time. But when I go to my other gym, I like to wait for the beat to drop sometimes. So sometimes I'll be like, if I'm like on the lat pull down, I'll be sitting there for like 30 seconds and people like come up to me and be like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm waiting for the beat to drop on my iPod that I have on. So that's one of those things. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
Probably Dwayne Johnson.
I was going to say, you're going to be probably like our 80th or 90th or health and fitness guest when this gets released, and he's been the answer 95% of the time. I mean, it's just, I mean, well, and I can't blame anyone too, because I mean, it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, the guy does these insane workouts, and it's just, I mean, everyone always likes to say, like, when clients are talking about like how they don't have enough time, and everyone's like, everyone has the same 24 hours in the day. I think he might be the one exception where he has like 27 hours, because how he's able to work out and get all those movie roles done, I have no idea. So he might be like have a secret deal with someone to give him like an extra 3 hours of daytime. I have no idea how that
him
works.
or 20-year younger Arnold. I mean.
Oh yeah, Arnold too. Arnold would probably be my choice, but I mean that's just because it's Arnold, and I'll just just make the simple choice. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
Ooh, if I could train any celebrity? That's a good question. I don't know. There has to be somebody out there. Ellen DeGeneres.
Ooh.
Just because I think it would be a blast.
Well, here's the only problem with that, because our most popular answer is Kevin Hart, and Ellen DeGeneres is kind of like that, where you would get probably the world's greatest ab workout in there because you'd be laughing the entire time, but you probably wouldn't be able to get any workout in just because she'd be so funny. But like, she's actually kind of strong. If you watch some of her shows, like she can work out. Like they do like push-up challenges or whatever, and she reps them. I was surprised, but I mean, because you can never tell because she's clothed all the time, so you can never really tell. But yeah, she's in really good shape. So I think that would actually be a cool one to train. I mean, I'd probably go with a Kevin Hart too, but that would be way too funny for me. So I don't know. I'd probably have to find a way to work out of that. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Always in my fridge, egg whites.
Yep. That is that and chicken are basically tied for our most popular answer. And then another weird answer that I'd never expected when I started this is mustard, because apparently, it has 0 calories and 0 fat. So a lot of bodybuilders use mustard because it's the flavor. So I was surprised at that, but yeah, egg whites, that's a good one. So now, what is something that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person?
That I'm 5 foot tall.
Oh, wow. Yep, I was gonna say that's probably our most popular answer is the height thing, because I thought you were gonna be like 5'6" or 5'7", but yeah, that's one thing too where I get so many, like, especially some of these guys that like to make these stupid comments about like women with muscle, like, oh, they look like manly or whatever. It's like, if you meet any of them in person, most of them are like your height. They're like 5 feet tall, or they're like upwards of like 5'4", and if you're a guy like me and you walk up to them, you're like, oh, that's not intimidating at all, because I'm still like a foot tall. So I mean, it's like, I mean, you guys still look great and everything, but I mean, it's like it's one of those things where I always tell that to people who like say like, oh, they look girls. It's like if you go up to in person, they're really, really short, and plus, what I've learned from this podcast, they're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet on the planet. So it's just it's really one of those things that I really hate, and I every time I get the opportunity, I just talk about how great the guests have been on my podcast and just how inspiring that's been. I mean, because you guys just do so much, and you guys go through so much, and I don't think you guys get the proper recognition that you guys deserve. So I mean, that's why I love having you guys on the show. Absolutely. So now going back to the questionnaire, this is the most important question that I'll ever ask you. What was the last TV show that you binge watched?
Game of Thrones. Still waiting for the next season. What the heck?
I was so pissed that they took a whole another year to do it than they
I
normally
know,
did, because I was like,
right?
are you kidding me? Like, you guys have, I mean, people don't realize, they talk about how hard these things are to film or whatever like that. It's like, no, you guys have done that every year. You guys can't do that again and it's only going to be like 6 episodes, and you guys normally do like 10. So it's like, are you kidding me? Yeah, I was really upset by that, but yeah.
I refused to watch it, and then finally I gave in, so like I watched the whole thing in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and I gotta say, so this is a fun story. So my brother was a fan of it, and I didn't start watching it until probably like midway through the 4th season. I didn't start watching it, but then he said, when an episode with the Red Wedding comes up, let me know, and then I'll come down and watch it with you. And I didn't know that he had his camera secretly recording from like, he had it like at an angle and a pillow for my reaction. And yeah, I was very shocked by that ending. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, yeah, this is a great show if they're willing to do this. So that really got me hooked. But yeah, that's probably my binge watch show too. I mean, I absolutely love it, and I can't wait for the new series to come out. Now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Friends. That's an easy one.
Well, yeah. So now I got to also give another plug. So in 2 weeks, I am having the actress that played Ross's wife, Carol, the lesbian, on the show, because she started a charity, and I've been emailing her like the last 2 months and saying, hey, I'd really like to have you come on and talk about your charity, what you do. And she said, yeah, absolutely. So we have a day. I think it's going to be 2 weeks from this Thursday. And I told her, I said, just so you know, though, it is going to be all friends. It's going to be like half is going to be all friends questions. And she goes, oh yeah, I get that all the time. So I'm coming up with like the 30 or 40 best friends questions. I'm just going to fling her at her as soon as we get going. So yeah, I'm really, really excited for that. And I'll send you a link to that one once that one gets edited and done too, because everyone wants to see that. And I'm going to see if I can get some of the backstory of Friends, because that's going to be really, really cool. But now, what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
A guilty pleasure moment?
Movie.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I just watched Crazy Rich Asians. That was an awesome little flick. I liked it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I've heard really great reviews about it. So I'll definitely have to go and give that a shot. I think I got it. I think they have it on HBO or something like that I could definitely get it off of. So yeah, I'll definitely have to actually go and do that. So now, what is one thing that you would change about the sport of bodybuilding if you had the all-knowing power to do so?
One thing I would change, I would definitely bring women's bodybuilding back to the forefront.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was ridiculous. I mean, I had started. That's around the time when I really started getting into health and fitness. So then when I started following all these people, and then everyone was like talking about like women's bodybuilding going on, and I had no idea what was like happening at the time. But then once I learned that more, I was like, yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they need to bring that back, because let's face it, like physique, it basically is bodybuilding, except it's just they're trying to make them look more ladylike, but it's like. Ladylike, that's the stupidest thing ever. I mean, it's like, if you can build muscle like that and look like that and you're a lady, then you're a lady. It's it's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, I could get into a whole 15-minute tangent on that, but I'll save everyone. Now, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
Oh wow, don't wait until you're 45 to get healthy.
Yep.
I don't know how much of a cost it had. I mean, I lived a very unhealthy lifestyle for my entire adult life until I was 45. Yeah. Until I started having trouble, when most people get scared and they do something about it. Mm-hmm. Fortunately for me, it wasn't too late. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I wish I had embraced what I do now. Mm-hmm. 30 years ago. And we kind of touch base on it a little bit further, and this is going off the questionnaire, but when it comes to that mindset too, I mean, like you said, for 45 years, you thought of yourself as sort of the overweight person. That sort of puts a negative thought process into your mind where you always consider to see yourself like that. Was that also, I mean, not only with your body when you adjusted to being like really strong and really fit, was it that hard process for your mind as well to sort of accept that like, I am no longer that type of person. I am now a different type of person. Is that something that you still need to, is that something that still, is affecting you? Or is it one of those things where you just were able to say, like, I'm a completely different person now? I think for the most part, like 95% of the time, I can say I'm a completely different person now. I think 5% of the time, those old records still pop up. Yep. Insecurities, you try on something at the store and oh my gosh, I think I look fat or my butt looks big in it, you know? Um, I think those records are really hard to break, and unfortunately, I think there's something that we kind of instill, particularly in women at a really young
Yep.
age. That you're supposed to look this way, and you know, if you don't fit this mold, it's not acceptable. So,
Hmm.
um, I love that the body I have breaks that stereotype.
Absolutely.
It's you know, it's not the norm, and it still is okay. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that I love having bodybuilders on the show, because a lot of people, when they look at bodybuilders, they don't see past the muscle. They don't realize that there's a human being underneath that, and that they just
Yeah,
I mean, like, it's natural, because human beings are just naturally visual creatures. So when they see something that isn't the norm, then they kind of are taken a little bit back by it, and they're kind of, it's hard to sort of gauge past that. But I mean, I love having bodybuilders on the show just to share their stories, because they're normal people just like you and me. The fact that they just look bigger and they're more muscular, I mean, that doesn't really change who they are as a person deep down. That's just their outer body. And
absolutely.
that's why I love having, because I mean, like, a lot of people, if they were like, look at you, be like, oh my god, she looks right, but they don't realize it's your story deep back down, and most people don't get to do that then, because I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I mean, like I said, I can't thank you enough for being on this podcast. Now, going back to our questionnaire, the final two questions. So now, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
Wow, dinner with any historical figure. You have to go back a really long ways, or can it be anybody? I would love to sit and talk to Tom Platz. Do you know who that is?
Tom Platz. That name sounds familiar.
He had the biggest quads ever. I think he still holds.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like the Platz beer guy, and I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, and he's still alive, you know,
Yeah.
so
Oh
we're
yeah.
not going a real long way. But I would love to sit and talk with him about his training methodology,
Hmm.
because the guy just was a freak in the gym, and
Hmm.
achieved stuff that most people can't.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and going back even farther than that, I don't know, probably, you know, Gandhi or somebody
Yeah.
that affected a huge change, Mother
Hmm.
Teresa, um, that gave, you know, people that entirely gave selflessly with their
Yep.
entire, you know, I
Absolutely.
think it'd be incredible to kind of sit and talk and hear their perspective of what it takes to like totally put yourself aside,
Hmm.
you know, and do something just entirely for everyone else. That would be
Absolutely. I mean, my answers, I'd always choose probably one of the founding fathers, whether it be like Jefferson or Washington. But I mean, the only problem with that is that, like, if I chose Washington, his teeth, I mean, he probably had the worst breath of all time with all those fake teeth. So I would have like one of those super long, like 40-foot long tables, and I'd sit at one end and he sat at the other, and be like, George, just stay on that side. I don't want to, get. And all those people had huge diseases back then. I mean, most people don't realize that the reason. I mean, I'm a history minor, and the reason why those guys wore wigs is because most of them had syphilis and their hair fell off. So I mean, it's just, ugh, yeah. I mean, those guys. It would be nice to have a conversation with them, but as long as we didn't like hug or like make any contact whatsoever, it's like, I don't want to have what you guys are having. So that's a whole different thing. But now, if if there's one thing that you'd like to say to people, because like there's so many misconceptions that they have about female bodybuilders, especially in the public. It has gotten a lot better with like the social media, because people are able to reach out more and they're able to see the other side of life. But if there was one thing that you would really like to have people to know, what would that be?
um, it, that to embrace whatever it is,
Hmm.
fitness, embrace it. You know, whether it's bodybuilding or you know if you like CrossFit, whatever it is, just do it.
Hmm.
You know, not to be cliche with Nike, obviously, but um,
Sponsor
and
her,
it's never
Nike.
too late. What's that?
Sponsor her, Nike.
But it's never too late, right? And everybody starts somewhere, you
Hmm.
know. So I don't care where you're at in the process. We're all a work in process. You might be in the beginning. You might be somewhere in your middle of that process, but we're all a work in process. We're always looking to improve, get better. So don't be afraid to start. You know, everybody's just got to start somewhere. And as long as you get going, that's more than half the battle.
Absolutely. So I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but are there any shows? Because I know you just competed about a week ago, but are there any shows that you're currently looking forward to, or are you just going to try to take a break now?
Well, going to take a little bit of a break in the sense that it's going to be my offer growth season before I go into another prep. But as to which shows, I'm not sure. Probably I'll hit Masters again in Pittsburgh. just because I'm obviously a master, so it kind of puts me in my own age group. But any shows that I do will be pro qualifiers, because that's my whole objective and goal now is to become a pro. So anything I do would obviously just, masters, North Americans. There's a whole bunch of new international pro qualifiers now that just opened up this past year, so I might do something abroad, but probably hit 2 or 3 of them this year. And been at it 5 years, going to get that pro card this year.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love to sort of bring up is that bodybuilders, it's a very tight knit community. I mean, a lot of them are very nice to each other. I mean, they've realized that, they all go through the same struggles. They all go through the same pain. So it's kind of like there's a brotherhood or sisterhood, no matter what gender you're in. But I mean, it's like, it's just like that, where people they tend to be really, really nice. How important to you is that support system that you have based from a lot of these competitors?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I've met so many incredible people through social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, and at shows as well. And it's as little as having somebody backstage helping you with your suit, or you forgot your bands or something, and having people that are always there and ready to help, or when you're having the mental struggles, to have that friend that you can call on, because they've been there and they understand, and they know what to tell you to help you get your head right again. So
Yeah.
It's been incredible. And I got to say that vast majority of people I've met have been awesome people.
Mm-hmm. So before we wrap things up here, I mean, she's already embarrassed us enough on this thing, so I thought she'd do one more. Could you give us a front double bicep?
Sure. I got you, right?
Yeah.
With the
all right. Yep. We got to definitely go hit the gym now after this for sure. But everyone, I mean, just again, go and follow her. She's a huge, huge inspiration. I mean, she will, just looking at her videos or photos will inspire you to get off that couch and, start lifting weights and stop eating those Twinkies. I mean, and just honestly keep doing what you're doing. I mean, your story is so inspiring, and we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And honestly, we wish you nothing but the best. And honestly, the way that you look, you will get your pro card. I mean, let's be honest. That's going to happen. I mean, just keep it up, and honestly, just keep being so inspiring. And again, we wish you nothing but the best. And again, Gina, everyone, go follow her down below. And lastly, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Just to all my followers and fans. I mean, it's the support and cheering and love that I get is incredible. And all those people that let me know that I inspire them and motivate them, because I never in a million years thought that, hey, I'm just a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I just do this because I love it. But the fact that I can reach out and touch people's lives and inspire them to get healthy, that just blows my mind. I love it. So, shout out to all those folks that follow and are always there for me with a a bicep emoticon, or a hey, love to see it. So yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And again, thank you again so much for coming on. Just a huge inspiration to all of us. And just to prove, I mean, at any age, just get healthy and get fit. I mean, it's never too late for anyone. So just get out there and just try something new. And again, you guys, Gina, cannot thank her enough. All of her links will be down below. And again, thank you so much. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.